Hi, I'm John Mayfield, the Real Estate Tech Guy, with another Global Real Estate School podcast. Hey, welcome to the podcast. My name is John Mayfield, the Real Estate Tech Guy. This is episode 306. 306. Well, I had one of my students ask me this week. They took the real estate examination, and they said, "Hey, John, there was a question on there about earnest money." And it kind of gave you the scenario of a real estate problem with a seller and a buyer and a sales price and how much earnest money was paid down. And the student told me the question was, how much will be credited toward the seller of the earnest money that was paid down? Now, keep in mind, I've not read this question. I don't know what it looks like. My response to the student was, the way we have always done real estate, my 47 years as a real estate professional, that earnest money is a credit to the buyer, not the seller. Now, this student said the question wanted to know how much earnest money would be credited toward the buyer, and he said there was not an answer for zero. So I'm checking this out with PSI because I don't know if that answer is reflecting a credit to the seller. Like if they're saying, well, if you as a buyer put $10,000 down as earnest money or $1,000 earnest money down, if PSI is saying, well, that's a credit to the seller. Well, in reality, maybe it is, but on all of the paperwork that I've ever done and every real estate agent I know, that earnest money never shows as a credit to the seller. So it's a question I have to check with PSI. And again, you need to read these questions very, very carefully. According to the student, they wanted to know how much earnest money was a credit to the seller. And this student said, John, I thought it would be zero. The credit would be to the buyer's side. And they are exactly right. But they said there was no zero there. Now, maybe they read the question incorrectly. If you see that question and there's not a zero there, first of all, I guess PSI is just thinking, well, that's a credit to the seller. You need to make sure that you report that to PSI, that this is a bad question, and they need to look at this because in real life, that's always a credit on the buyer's closing statement. Never, ever have I seen the earnest money as a credit to the seller. Now, if there's other agents out there listening or instructors and you want to disagree with me, that's fine. I can show you a zillion closing statements that I've been involved with, and I've never seen the earnest money as a credit to the seller. I've always seen the title company put that as a credit to the buyer. So read the question carefully. Maybe there's some key word or words that you need to be in tune for. But I just want to give you a heads up that if you do not see a zero and you are seeing the same thing this student saw, report that. There's an opportunity for you to make comments about questions, and you need to report that and tell PSI that's not the way that this is done in real life, okay? So what should you answer? If you do not see a zero and it really clearly says how much of that earnest money is a credit to the seller, and there's one of those choices and there's not a zero there, then you need to go with the earnest money that you're seeing as the credit to the seller. But you need to make a notation on the exam, okay? Hey, I've got a couple of other questions I'll be bringing you. I know I need to be doing more podcasting. I do a lot of YouTube stuff. So go over there to the YouTube channel and like it, because a lot of times I go live on YouTube there, but I want to help you pass the real estate exam on the very first attempt. Our pass rates were up for January. I made a bunch of changes. I've added lots of sample questions, but you have to be a global real estate school student to get that. In fact, I told my wife I was very excited because there was one school who only had one student take the test, and they passed, so they made 100%. But for those of us who had multiple students, I'm happy to report Global Real Estate School led the field, okay? And I really think it's this new strategy I'm employing for my students with some end-of-course tests. And so globalrealestateschool.com, check it out. We'll be doing Zoom office hours for you, if not daily, at least weekly. I'm going to be doing some Zoom office hours, but would love for you to be a student at Global Real Estate School. It's globalrealestateschool.com. Be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel. Give us some love. We always appreciate that. And more importantly, go out and make it a great day. Thank you for listening to the podcast for Global Real Estate School. I'm John Mayfield, the Real Estate Tech Guy. Go out and make it a great day.